Hello, and welcome back to today's episode of the Undivided podcast. Today's episode is going to be all about 5 things as a woman who is going into the gym. 5 things that you potentially might be doing that are holding you back and how you can actually be forward and overcome these things. So this is going to be completely from like my personal experience and things that I used to struggle with as that girl that was like getting into the gym, trying to find a feat, really wanting to get into bodybuilding, but not really being sure how to actually go about becoming that person. So this is going to be completely from like my experience and what I've learned being in the fitness industry for basically the last coming up pretty much 10 years now probably, which is crazy. Like working in the fitness industry for like 8 years and competing for the last 7 years now, which is mad. Like I cannot believe it's been that long. So anyway, I'm going to start off. I did this last week and I quite like it, so I thought I'm going to do it again. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a like ins and outs for this week. So let me know yours as well, because I had a couple of people message me off the back of last week's and I quite like talking about them. So let me know if you have any ins and outs that you're going to be working on for this week. So my kind of positive of the week, my thing that I did and I was like, yeah, okay, I really need to make sure that I do this, is I've started doing like one nice thing a week, which is like my like me time. I think I mentioned this actually last week. And I went for like a really nice Sunday dinner last night with my mum and with Will, and it was just really chilled and really relaxing. And I'm like, I'm going to make Sunday going forward my like no work family day, because I'm sometimes really bad at a weekend for thinking, oh my God, I've got 2 days where I like don't have check-ins, I don't have calls, like I can get so much work on. So I basically have decided, right, Sunday is a no work day. I'm not going to open my laptop and I'm going to go out and do something nice. So like this weekend, we're going to go on a hike to the peaks, which is going to be really fun. So Sunday, that's going to be my new like positive, my new in thing that's going on. And my out thing is I need to bring back in my reading, because I've stopped doing my like reading, and I don't know about you guys, but I got absolutely drawn in to the whole like ACOTAR, Sarah Maas, like vampire, really heavy like fiction style books, and I got so wrapped up in them and I read the whole ACOTAR series, and honestly it was the best thing. And then I got really into like oh God, what are they called? The Throne of Glass series. So I basically read all of those. So I've just started my next one, which is like, I think it's called The Serpent of the Night, oh my God, I can't remember what it's called now. Oh, Serpent, I've got it on my bookshelf, I can see it. The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Is that what it's called? By Carissa Broadbent. So I've got really into that. So my thing that needs to stop is working late and actually reading before bed, because I forget until I come to read like how much I actually enjoy doing it. So that's my thing that I'm like, okay, Leah, stop working, actually read your book before bed, because it's really easily done to just fall out of habit with things like this, and before you know it you are like working 15-hour days, which is just not a vibe. So that's my 2 things for this week that I'm really going to work on. So we'll report back next week. So okay, let's get stuck into this week's podcast episode. So essentially, in terms of who this is directly for, okay, so I specifically, and this used to be me right when I was younger, so women who maybe you are sort of in your 20s, in your 30s, maybe even your early 40s, like you are driven, pretty self-motivated, you know, you work hard and you are going to the gym. So you're committing to the gym, you're showing up, you're putting in the effort, but you just feel like a little bit lost. You feel like you are maybe questioning your training, you are questioning the choices, and you feel like you're second guessing a bit and you're just not really kind of getting the results that you should be from the effort that you're putting in. So like maybe you're unsure if you're actually making really good progress, you feel a little bit kind of like you've plateaued. And I get this from girls all the time, they're like, oh, I'm putting in the effort, but I don't really feel like I am making the progress I should be. I feel like I don't really look like I'm going to the gym. I feel like I look fluffy. Like they want that strong, lean, kind of toned, I'm going to say, look, and feel like they're putting in the effort, but aren't really getting the reward from the work that they are putting in. And this used to be me in my sort of late teens to early 20s. I was like, I'm putting in all this effort. Like, why am I not changing right now? It's annoying. So kind of when we look at the key things that I struggled with getting into my fitness journey, and the key things that a lot of the girls that I work with also struggle with, and maybe you struggle with as well, is feeling like you are doing the work, but you're not getting the results. And there's nothing more infuriating than showing up and going to the gym, putting in the time, and just feeling like, why am I even doing this? Because it is not even working right now, and I don't even look or feel any different. So that's kind of the first thing. And again, something that I know I used to struggle with so much was actually being scared of eating more. And honestly, this held me back for so many years. Like just the fear around eating more. What if I gain fat? What if I gain weight? What if I look worse? And it held me back for so long. And it wasn't until I actually started eating to fuel and building my calories up in a structured way. And I've done so many podcasts on this before as well, that I actually really got the results that I wanted. And I think also like your progress can feel a bit up and down. So you feel like you're kind of going to the gym, you're showing up, but you're not really training in a structured way. And this again was something that I used to do. I remember when I first started my fitness journey and I was working in a Virgin Active, and I remember going into the gym and I used to like set up the little circuit training, and I'd be doing like my box jumps and my like squat to press and like my burpees, and I was like, I'm training so hard, my heart rate is so high, I'm sweating so much, like why do I still look the same? Why am I not getting leaner? And it can be so infuriating when you get to that point and you are like, I am putting in so much effort and I'm not getting anywhere. But again, a lot of the time it's like, just because you're sweating and your heart rate's high, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are working hard or working efficiently, should I say. And then the last thing, I guess, with this is like feeling a bit unsure around what is actually working, and feeling just a little bit afraid that you're getting it wrong, because you don't, if you're serious about getting your results, you don't want to be going into the gym and putting in all this time, putting in all this effort and being like, is this even working? Because you end up flitting back and forward, and that's when you can kind of not really get anywhere, because you jump in between this, jump in between that, and not really feeling sure about what you should be doing, right? So when we look about, like, if I go back to me and think about, okay, when I was in my early days, what did I actually want? So one of the big things that I really wanted was I wanted a strong, like, athletic physique. Like, I wanted to look like that girl that went to the gym. That was my, like, ultimate goal. And I wanted that to kind of reflect how hard I was training. And I also wanted to feel really confident with what I was doing. I know when I first started, I did, does anyone remember like the Kayla It Seems BBG guide? There was like a V1 and a V2, and it was like heavy on the HIIT training. And then there was the London Muscle Guide, which I did as well. And I remember jumping between so many guides. At uni, I even followed the body coach for a little bit in terms of the meals. And I remember jumping around so many plans. And it was because I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I didn't really have clarity, I didn't really have structure, and that's when it can get a little bit overwhelming and you feel potentially a little bit lost, because you are questioning every decision that you're making. So for me, I really wanted like clarity. I wanted an understanding of why I was eating a certain way, why I was training a certain way. And it can be frustrating when you feel like you're being told what to do, but you don't really know, like, how is this actually adding up to get me where I want to be? And that just leads to like kind of a feeling of not really understanding how that all fits together. And I know for me, like, I personally think it's really important to be able to see the bigger picture and actually understand how all your goals are stacking up and actually moving you closer to your goal. So having like a really clear map of, okay, this is the goal, these are the phases we need in order to move towards the goal, and this is kind of how long each phase needs to be. Like, that for me really helps in terms of giving me clarity, giving me understanding of like how long it's actually going to take to get to my goal, because in reality it often takes a lot longer than we think to reach a certain goal. So that was kind of me and what I really wanted. And lastly, I guess to build a really good mindset and a really good routine that I felt happy in and I felt confident in. And it allowed me to then show up in a way that was leading to me being consistent, feeling like committed, feeling disciplined. Because in my opinion, like there's no better feeling than that. And actually showing up, feeling like, yeah, you know what, I've really got this. I know exactly what I'm doing and I know it's moving me forward towards my goal. And that was what I really wanted when I first started out, you know, in terms of my journey. So I just wanted to go into a little bit of a background with this and just really speak about like what I really struggled with and how I guess like what I actually wanted. And we're going to go into some of the key things that I've learned now over the years that have really allowed me to move forward and that have really helped me progress over my years kind of in the fitness journey. So, and when we actually break this down and look at where does real change actually come from, like real transformation is not going to come from an 8-week phase, from an 8-week plan, an 8-week transformation. It comes from really following through, being committed long term and going through the different phases of your journey. And it is like a mindset shift because it's not just about following a plan. It's also about kind of, I guess, having a coach that genuinely cares about you, having someone that has your best interests at heart, having the right sort of people around you, and maybe girls that are going through like a similar thing as you. And I really honestly think that confidence comes from following through with what you've said you're going to do. Because if you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, like, of course that's going to knock your self-confidence down. Whereas if you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, these are my goals, and then you go and do that thing, that is what builds self-confidence. So self-confidence and belief in yourself is going to come from following through with what you've said you're going to do. And I guess like that's what's happened to me over the years. Like I never thought I would be that girl that would be able to get on stage and win shows. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to start, I'm going to do this prep and I'm going to commit myself to this. And then I got to the end of the prep and I'm like, oh my God, I did that. Like I achieved that. Like I can do this. And then you set the bar a bit higher. And I just think that's how you grow as a person, by like committing, following through, achieving, and then pushing that bit more. And over the years, like it's incredible what you can actually achieve when you go through that process and commit to what you've said you're going to do. And, you know, in order to make progress, like it does require a plan, it does require sacrifice, it does require discipline, it does require structure. And I think that often can be, I guess, a bit of a sticking point for a lot of girls, because I'm going to be completely honest, like when you have a goal and you want to achieve that goal, like you can't expect to just do whatever you want and also get results. And that used to be me when I first started out. I was like, why am I not getting those results? And I was giving it like 60% effort. So, you know, if you have like, say, a fat loss goal or you want to build muscle, like that's going to require consistency. And it's going to require sacrifice being made. And I'm not one of those coaches that is like, yeah, go out, eat whatever you want, it's fine, and you'll still make amazing fat loss progress. Because I do think in reality, when you have a goal, like you have to be consistent and you have to show up. So I think that was where a really big change came for me, was when I actually took a step back and was like, am I genuinely being consistent and giving this like the time and the energy that it needs for me to get what I want from it? Because at the end of the day, the more you put into something, the more you're going to get out of something, right? So that was like a massive shift for me as well. So yeah, I was literally that girl who loved the gym, I loved training, but I never really changed. And I was doing too much cardio. I was doing my little circuit training in Virgin. There was like no structure. There was no clear phases. I was just eating well and I was going to the gym and then being like, why am I not changing? So when I actually got into bodybuilding, that's when a lot of things like really, really changed for me. And I got really well structured. I went through proper structured fat loss phases, proper structured building phases. And regardless of whether you're bodybuilding or not, like the way that you achieve muscle growth and the way that you achieve fat loss is the same, regardless of whether you are a bodybuilder or whether you are just someone that wants to make a bit of progress. Like the fundamentals and the science is the same. It just might be that the bodybuilding approach is a little bit more extreme, you know, but the fundamentals are going to be the same. So like that, I honestly think for me, bodybuilding is what taught me like discipline, taught me to show up when it felt hard. That's what taught me that I'm actually way more capable of achieving what I think I am. And that's what, for me personally, built like the self-belief that I didn't actually have, I guess, in the early stages of my journey. And I came from a background, and I've spoke about this a lot, where I did really struggle with my relationship with food. Like, I struggled with a lot of digestion issues, a lot of bloating, and honestly, getting into bodybuilding really changed a lot of that for me. Yeah, I've been through those struggles, I really have, and like building the lifestyle that means I can still reach my goals, but you'll have seen this, I am someone that loves eating out. I'm someone that loves a good holiday. And I feel like I now have a really good balance of being able to go and do those things and being able to have fun and still make really good progress in bodybuilding at the same time. And obviously, yes, prep also comes into that, and you have to be on it on a prep. Outside of that, I feel like I really like the balance that I have with it. So that for me has been like where I've got to over the past few years, really. So anyway, long-winded intro. Let's get stuck into the nitty-gritty of this podcast. So the first thing I wanted to go through is looking at long-term commitment. So if you are still chasing 8-week transformations and quick fix plans, you need to actually think about following a long-term strategy rather than following a 8-week quick fix plan. So when we actually break this down, right, so real results come from structured phases, not just going to the gym and eating well. So following a structured fat loss phase, following a structured building phase, and actually the nutrition and the training needs to align in that specific phase that you are in. So that was like the real game changer for me. So real results actually come from that, like actually going through those phases and not just hopping from 8-week challenge to 8-week challenge to coach, like actually commit and follow through to those phases. So a little implementable tip is have a look at your past 6 to 12 months, okay? And ask yourself, have you actually committed over that time frame, have you committed to like maybe 12 to 16 weeks in one phase solidly and actually stuck to that phase? Go and have a little look. So that is one of the best things you can do to get the results. And a big take home from this, I guess, is like stop chasing quick fixes and actually commit to following through in one phase for a minimum of 12 to 16 weeks, and look how much your results actually change from that. So that's kind of my first tip, I guess, from today is I used to be that person that would always chase 8-week challenges, or like I said before, I would do like the body coach, I would do London Muscle, I would do Kayla at Scenes, I would work with a coach for a little bit. And I remember when I got my first like proper bodybuilding coach. It was a PT in the gym that I was working in, and he competed, he had like a few clients he competed, and he was the one, I remember going to the gym, I used to PT with him every week, right? And he sent me a nutrition plan, and I was literally the worst client at sticking to this plan because I didn't understand how it all fit together and why I was actually doing it. Hence the importance of long-term planning. But I remember going to the gym and he would do the same session with me every week, and I had the same sessions around it, and I was like, we've done the same session now for like 4 weeks, like this is a bit boring, maybe we need to switch it up. And I remember him saying, no, like you need to stick to the same thing. And I'll even get this sometimes with clients now, being like, can we change my plan? It's been 4 weeks. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like you need to stick with this and you need to actually follow through with it, because the results also are going to come from, again, committing to that phase, following through, like repetition. And it sounds so boring, right? But repetition and consistency and sticking with a phase is what gets results. And I think as humans, like we like excitement, we like novelty, but when it comes to actually getting results within your own journey, within fitness, and this was a big learning curve for me, you have to follow through the plan and you have to actually commit to that plan, which often feels quite boring, but that's really what works within results. And a lot of people will chop and change and look for excitement, and that, I mean, for me especially, that was like the thing that held me back for so many years, is that I would flip between things and not actually do the stuff that I needed to do and commit to a specific phase to move me forward. So that is my first tip. My second tip is frustration over feeling like you are doing everything right, but not actually getting the results that you feel like you should be. So you're training hard, you're eating clean, but you don't feel like you're actually getting anywhere. You still feel like you don't really like to go to the gym. You feel like you're still maybe skinny fat or fluffy, as a lot of people say. So it's not a lot of the time in this case that the effort is missing, like you are putting in the effort. It's not that you need to work harder. It's often that you just don't have the right structure and the right roadmap in place to actually get to where you want to be. So like random sessions, going to the gym, not really following a structured plan, eating healthily, you could be eating well, but not eating in a calorie deficit, not eating in a calorie surplus. And what then happens is you end up flip-flopping between eating in a deficit, eating in a surplus. You end up not really building muscle, not really losing fat. And even though you're eating clean or healthily, you could still be eating, around maintenance, which means you're not really going to be progressing either way in any direction, clearly. So again, that was something I did for a really long time. I was very much on the if it fits your macros, like clean eating train for when we first started out. I don't know if anyone remembers that, like maybe 10 years ago now. It was the whole if it fits your macros, like clean eating kind of vibe. And I spent a really long time in that phase. And what essentially happened is I wasn't in like a clear fat loss phase. I wasn't in a clear build. And don't get me wrong, like you can still make progress sat at maintenance, but you have to be sat consistently eating like a good amount of calories. You don't want to be hitting a deficit some days and then a massive surplus the other days. And then that's what really held me back for a really long time. So it can be frustrating. And, when you're doing random sessions and you're really eating clean, but you're not really following a set structure or a set phase, like what actually gets progress is committing to a properly structured training plan, like eating in a clear deficit or a clear surplus, or spending time, maybe at maintenance, like really solidifying your training. Like that's what clear phases do. They take you from someone that is just going to the gym and showing up and eating clean and training to actually someone that is progressing through a certain phase and gets the results they want. So a little implementable tip from this, if you are someone that is going to the gym and you feel like you're putting in the effort but you're not really getting anywhere, is write down your lifts, track your lifts, follow a program, and actually aim to stick with that program. I would say really a good 16 weeks is a minimum, and actually track your lifts and see, right, am I getting stronger? Am I training with a really good intensity? Am I able to add reps to those lifts? Because you will get so much more out of your training from actually following a structure, following a plan, tracking your lifts, making sure you are progressing within your training in some way. And that over time is going to lead to some really good quality results versus just going into the gym and following a random plan or jumping between different things and just hoping that you get results, because there's nothing more frustrating than going to the gym and putting in all that effort and not really feeling like you are getting anywhere. And I have been there. So there's nothing worse than putting in the effort and actually not getting anywhere, right? That's so frustrating. So the third thing that I would say is you can have a physique that looks like you train really hard without getting on stage. And physique results, right? A good physique, or a physique that you're proud of, like that doesn't have to be reserved for just stepping on stage. It doesn't. And, you can get amazing results without getting on stage, and you can still follow that same process, really. So the difference between kind of going to the gym and showing up, and this follows on from the last point, and looking like you actually go to the gym versus feeling like you're not really getting anywhere, is having a really good structure in place, following a consistent plan, making sure that your nutrition aligns with your goal. And that is one of the biggest things I would say to anyone, is going back to the last point, like you can be eating well and eating healthily, but if your nutrition isn't aligned to your specific goal in terms of the calories, the macros, the structure, you're going to really struggle to actually see the results. So for example, you're in a fat loss phase, your nutrition, you need that to be planned so you're eating in a consistent deficit. And you can eat healthy without eating in a deficit, right? And if you're not eating in a deficit, you're not going to make fat loss progress. Same with building muscle. Like, you could be eating healthily, but if you're not eating enough calories, your recovery is going to be in the bin. You're not going to have great energy to perform and progress within your sessions. You're not going to have the calorie surplus you need to build muscle effectively. So if you're not consistently eating enough food and also the right quality food, you're going to really struggle to actually build the muscle and recover from the sessions to build the muscle. So you could still be eating well, but not eating enough calories. And that's really going to hold you back from making the progress that you want in the gym. And that was a real game changer for me, like understanding that the nutrition plays such a big role in our progress, whether it's eating in a consistent deficit, eating in a consistent surplus. Because what I would do is I would flip between the phases, and I'd be like, okay, I'm dieting, I'd be in a deficit for maybe like 3 to 4 days, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm having a weekend off, go into a massive surplus, do like 3-4 weeks of that, and then wonder why I wasn't making progress with fat loss. So you have to really commit to one phase and go all in on that phase and spend a good amount of time. And even with fat loss, like, I would say you want a good 3-4 weeks of solidly hitting your deficit before you're probably going to really start to notice a change. And I think that makes a massive difference, just understanding like the consistency actually needed in each phase to get the results from kind of that specific phase. So anyway, went on a tangent there, but that's the biggest thing that actually makes the difference between people that go to the gym and people that really look like they go to the gym, is having that specificity with the structure and the phases, and also like learning how to train really, really hard. So a little implementable tip from this would be, over your next, let's say like 12 to 16 weeks, is look at your next 12 to 16 weeks and ask yourself, right, what do I really want to get out this phase? Like, do I want to build muscle and strength? Do I want to really nail my structure, or do I want to lose body fat? So then once you've got your outcome, you can go all in on that and be, okay, like, I'm really going to go all in on this phase. Make sure the nutrition aligns with that goal. Make sure you're training really hard, because your training really shouldn't change between a fat loss and a building phase. Like, your training is your training. It's there to build muscle, and what builds muscle is also going to retain muscle, right? So your training, potentially right at the end of a fat loss phase, you might pull the volume back a little bit, but your fundamentals of your training plan stay exactly the same all the way through. So it's really your nutrition and your expenditure, so your cardio and your steps, that are going to dictate whether you're in a surplus or whether you're in a deficit for fat loss or building muscle. So ask yourself, right, over the next 12, 16 weeks, what phase am I going to fully commit to? And then go all in on that specific phase and make sure that your nutrition aligns with that. And I promise you, the results that you get will massively, massively improve if you commit to one specific phase. So that would be my take home from point number 3, would be, like, you don't have to compete to look like you get on stage. You can get very good results, but you have to be on it with your structure. And this is essentially what bodybuilders do. Like, this is what I do. I go through structure building phases, I go through structure fat loss phases, and you then go through the building phase, you obviously build the muscle, and then you go into the fat loss phase, and that's what reveals the muscle, right? So you have to go through structured phases. Like, it's going to be very difficult unless you are a complete beginner to the gym. It's going to be very difficult to build a muscle unless you're in a consistent surplus. It's going to be very difficult to lose body fat unless you're in a consistent deficit. So pick one phase, go all in on that phase, and then once you've done that phase and you've achieved that goal, then move on to the other phase, and that will massively, massively help you in terms of achieving your results. So let's go on to point number 4. So the biggest mistake that I made, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, the number one mistake that keeps women stuck is flip-flopping between different phases. So switching between building, switching between cutting, intuitive eating, and that really stops any real progress in any direction being made. So you need to actually own one phase at a time. Like, stop doing a half-hearted phase and then deciding halfway through that you don't like it and you want to do the other phase. Like, commit to that phase, go all in on that phase and push through and actually get the result from that specific phase. Because if you are doing a half-hearted build or a half-hearted cut, you're going to end up like not really making any progress, which is frustrating. So like I said, just decide that phase. It will make a massive difference, and stop being half in and half out. Like, actually just go all in on the goal and the phase that you are committing to. And I can promise you, like, if you decide, right, am I building muscle? Am I losing fat? Pick 3 tips. Am I building muscle? I can't speak today. Am I building muscle? Am I losing fat? And then decide, okay, this is the one I'm doing. I'm going to do this for, say, 16 weeks. These are my 3 daily non-negotiables that I'm going to hit every day. So let's say, for example, you are deciding you're going to go into a building phase. Okay, you're going to do 16 weeks in a building phase. To be completely honest, as a female, I would probably recommend a bit longer. But let's say you decide to do 16 weeks. Okay, you might then say, right, so my 3 non-negotiables are going to be, I'm going to hit XYZ calories every single day. I'm going to get, I don't know, maybe 4 training sessions in a week. And I'm going to make sure I hit X amount of protein every single day. Like, they might be your 3 non-negotiables. Like, commit yourself to following through with those every single day and write them down somewhere you can see them, and actually make sure that you tick off those boxes for those specific goals. So yeah, stop being half in on one phase and then leaving that phase after you can't be bothered to do it. Like, actually just go all in on that phase, because it will make the world of difference. My final tip is, so I used to be that girl who would train like 5 times a week and not really see any difference. And I was like, why am I putting all this effort in and nothing is really working? So actually going to the gym, showing up isn't enough. Like, you need to actually be following a structured plan with the gym. And I know a lot of this feels very repeated in this podcast, but that's because, like, repeating the basics and getting really going all in on the specific phase you are in, aligning the goals with that phase, not flip-flopping, following a structured plan. Like, the basics work, and the basics, when repeated over time, work even better. So that's why a lot of this is repeated. But you need a plan in the gym. So I was that girl, right? Cardio heavy, circuit training, flip-flopping, doing every exercise under the sun, not tracking my lifts, and being like, why am I not getting stronger right now? Like, this is annoying. So I was also only on it when I was dieting. So I would be like, okay, I'm doing a diet. I'm going to track all my calories, hit all my steps, get everything spot on. And then as soon as I came away from dieting, I would just lose all structure, and I would not track any food, eat whatever I wanted. So I ended up in this like perpetual cycle of dieting and then not really doing anything, and then dieting, and it's like a horrible cycle. And I never really got progress with building muscle because I never had the structure there away from my like dieting phase. And that's probably one of the biggest things that helped me, was having a structure in place away from dieting as well as when I was dieting, if that makes sense. So that's really what changed everything for me, like just the mindset behind it as well, and understanding that if you really want great results with your physique and you want this to be like a long-term thing, it's about actually getting in the mindset where you're like, okay, this is, I know it sounds cringy, but this is a lifestyle. Like, this is how I live my life every day. For example, like eating well because of the health benefits and the digestion and how it makes you feel, versus just eating well because you want to lose weight. So that mindset shift for me really made a massive difference, and it allowed me to then eat well and follow a good structure when I was building muscle, not just when I was dieting. So what I would say, a little implementable tip you can take if you are struggling, is track everything you're doing for 4 weeks, okay? So look at what you're doing, track all of your food, track how much cardio you're doing every week, what is your step average for the week, how much sleep are you getting, track all your lifts in the gym, how many times a week are you training. Like, go away and just do that for 4 weeks and just see the results that you get, because then you'll get a really good indication of, are you eating in a consistent deficit? Because is your weight going down? Like, are you getting stronger in the gym? Is your weight coming up? In which case you're probably in a bit of a surplus, and you've got then a much better idea of where you are actually hitting. This is something I'll get clients to do a lot when they first start, is we'll just actually track the data and work together and figure out, why, where are you actually sat at the minute? And then we can build things forward from there a little bit. So that's a really good tip. And, you know, I've been where you are. I've been in that position where I felt like nothing was working. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't really know what to do, to be honest. And I was that person who jumped around between lots of different plans. So I get it, and I understand that it can feel super hard, but it's really nice because now I'm in a position where I have obviously learnt a lot. I have done a lot of work on myself and my own progress with coaches and mentors and things, and I now know exactly what to do. So yeah, it's just it's a hard place to be when you're in that position where you don't really feel like you know what you're doing. So if you do have any questions and you would like a little bit of a hand, please feel free to just drop me a DM. It's always really nice like hearing people off the back of the podcast like chat to me about it and tell me how they found it and what's helped them and things like that. So please always feel free to message me. I'll always try my very best to reply to everyone's messages. And if you are interested in one-to-one coaching, if you are someone that thinks, actually, yeah, you know what, I'm fed up of flip-flopping, I'm fed up of not really committing and not knowing what I'm doing, and I'm ready to take this seriously, then you can apply to work with us on a one-to-one basis, and I will pop the link below so you can find out a little bit more. But hopefully this episode has been helpful, and hopefully it's been enjoyable, and I will be back next week with another episode.